right, we will now call to order the city council meeting this Tuesday, November 4th. Oh, this yours? No. Monday, November 4th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. in the council chambers. Councilman Pat Mudrin will lead us in giving the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Before we start, former city manager passed away today, and Councilman Quillen is going to read some information about him, but I'd like to ask for a moment of silence first. Thank you.
John Messer was a part of the Joliet family for decades and had many accomplishments during his tenure. He was the city manager for, I think, well over 30 years. When I first came on the council, he was here. After graduation from high school, John proudly served our country in the United States Army for 4 years and then became employed with the city of Joliet as a civil engineer. He was promoted to the Director of Public Works and eventually served as the city manager of Joliet from 1987 until his retirement in 2008. All of us here send our deepest condolences to his family on their loss, and we wish his family all the best during these trying times. God bless you, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Gracious God, as we come before you today to discuss important matters, we ask for your guidance and wisdom. You are the source of all knowledge and understanding. Therefore, we seek your direction in our decision-making process. Help us to listen attentively to one another with open hearts and open minds. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin with roll call. Mayor Darcy, absent. Councilman Cardenas,
Here.
Councilman Clement,
Here.
Councilman Guerrero,
Here.
Councilman Hugg, absent. Councilwoman Ibarra,
Here.
Councilman Mudrin,
Here.
Councilwoman Quillman,
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
First this evening is a presentation for the Alternative Water Source Program update.
Thank you, Council. So I believe I mentioned maybe 2 meetings ago that our plan moving forward would be to provide updates to the full council rather than just the Public Service Committee, probably on a quarterly basis regarding the status of the Alternative Water Source Program. So that'll be our plan moving forward. And tonight, Joe Johnson with Stantec is here to provide this update.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, council members. It's good to see you again. It's been a while since I've been here to present to you on the Alternative Water Source Program. Tonight we have a couple of objectives. We want to give you an update on the status of the program and a lot of the work that's been going on in a brief format. And then also brief the council on some upcoming steps that this council will be asked to take, as well as steps that the Grand Prairie Water Commission will be taking, so that you're aware of things that are moving forward. We'd like to begin these presentations just briefly with a statement or a reminder as to why we're undertaking the Alternative Water Source Program here in Joliet. And the quick summary is that groundwater levels in the aquifer that provides water to the city have been declining for decades. And in 2018 and then subsequently in 2020, work done by the Illinois State Water Survey determined that the city is at risk of not being able to meet its maximum day demands by 2030. So action was required. The city moved forward in 2018, starting a series of studies to evaluate alternatives. There were phase 1, phase 2 studies. that narrowed options down to 2 alternatives for bringing Lake Michigan water to the region. Those were evaluated in more detail, and then in 2021, the city made a decision to proceed with the purchase of treated water from the city of Chicago and bring it out to this area. Preliminary agreement with Chicago was signed at that time to establish the general terms under which Chicago would sell water to Joliet and its partners. A final water supply agreement was actually executed with the city of Chicago back in May of last year, and that's a major milestone because that does formalize that framework for a long period of time. I think we've all known from the beginning of this effort that this solution would be much better if it were a regional solution undertaken by multiple communities. So I'm proud to report, I think you all are already aware, that the Grand Prairie Water Commission was formally created this summer in June, and their board has begun meeting on a regular basis. The commission consists of the cities of Joliet, as well as Shanahan, Crest Hill, Minooka, Romeoville, and Shorewood. The communities have been working together for several years, but it's really critical to get to that point where the entity has been formalized and they're now in a position to borrow funds, to take on debt, to undertake construction contracts and move the project forward. So what is the program? And just in brief sense, it's a large regional water transmission main program, a series of pipe with a couple of pumping stations, several storage facilities to bring water from the southwest side of the city of Chicago, treated water, all the way out to a total of 13 water delivery structures where that water will be supplied to Joliet and the other commission members. There are a number of facilities here. The system is being designed for an initial capacity of about 55 million gallons per day, but it has the ability to be expanded up to roughly 104 million gallons per day. So we've given consideration to the potential build-out potential in this area and what may be required to serve those future needs. The current program budget that was developed, looking at all the costs, not just construction, but land acquisition, all the other costs of the program, and then escalating those to the time that they will occur, so that it represents the total cost of the program at completion. Currently, that current budget is estimated to be about $1.446 billion. So this is a very large infrastructure project for the region, for the city of Joliet and its partners. It's important to understand, I know you all are aware of this, but the program actually has 2 components for each of the member communities. There's a regional system that will be constructed, owned and operated by the commission to bring water to the region. And then each of the individual communities will still need to operate and maintain its own local water system. Those water systems need to be modified so that instead of relying on multiple wells as they currently do, they rely now on a fewer number of connections where they get water from the city, the Grand Prairie Water Commission. So in Joliet, that work is part of Stantec's scope, the firm that I work for that's the lead consultant with CMT driving the design and engineering for this project. So we're responsible for leading the design of commission infrastructure as well as infrastructure in the city of Joliet. And I'm not going to go through the map in detail, but there are several tanks, pump stations, some distribution improvements that also have to be made within the city. And there's a timeline both on this map and the prior one. All this work really construction begins to ramp up next year going into 2026. The real center of construction, the peak of it will be in 2027, and the goal is to have the system up and operational by the middle of 2030. The schedule, I just kind of walked you through that. We're well through preliminary design now into final design. We opened bids on the first construction project for the commission just last week. Expect that contract to be awarded later this year and to move into construction early next year. So tremendous amount of activity, and the pace is going to continue to pick up over the next year or two as we move towards construction. Just a few accomplishments to highlight. There are a total of 28 construction contracts or work packages that we call them that the commission needs to implement, and then another 8 work packages that the city of Joliet needs to implement. On the commission side, all of those work packages are past what we call 30% design. So survey work has been completed, geotechnical investigations are either complete or ongoing, utility investigations are continuing. We're at 60% for 7 of the work packages, and as I mentioned before, 1 of the packages was advertised and bids were opened last week. So from an engineering design standpoint, there's been a tremendous amount of progress made. and we are moving through that design phase towards construction. Away from the design side, there's also been a tremendous amount of activity on land acquisition, funding, and many other things I won't have time to get into tonight. But on the land acquisition side, the commission has acquired all of the easements or property it needs for the facilities, for the pumping and storage facilities that are part of the system. There are still easements that will be required for pipe, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the major parcels of land that need to be purchased or large easements have been acquired or in place. On the funding side, we've continued to work with US EPA to position the commission for use of the WIFIA Low Interest Loan Program, which is a federal loan program structured specifically for very large infrastructure projects. We already have a loan in place. It's being used to fund the development phase of the work, and we're currently in negotiations with US EPA to work towards closing on a construction loan that will fund the construction phase, or 49% of the construction phase for the commission. Commission's also submitted a plan to the IEPA for state revolving fund loan money, and that plan has been approved. So we have 5 commission projects that are in the pipeline, no pun intended, but to potentially obtain low interest funding from the state. And then we've had some success in the near term obtaining grants with the assistance of our advocacy team as well as the city and other partners. We currently are working to use funds for a $3.5 million grant from the Will County ARPA program, and we have about $3.7 million in congressionally directed spending that's been provided to help offset some of the costs of the program. So just a few of the accomplishments, lots of details, but many good things going on. On the Joliet side, similarly, all the work packages are through 30% design. One package, which was upgrades to the city's SCADA system for the water utility, was bid and is now in implementation. We expect to advertise a package including 2 new elevated tanks in early 2025 and get that work going next year as well. Site acquisition for the city's facilities, for the tanks and pump stations, is either complete or very near complete, and funding efforts with WIFIA and IEPA are also progressing on that side. So significant work to both design the improvements and also set the stage to fund them and implement them. There are challenges though. There is a lot of work still to be done to bring this program to completion. Some of the upcoming challenges, there are more than 400 temporary and permanent easements that we currently estimate will be required to implement the overall program. While much of the pipe will be installed in public rights of way, and that was an intentional decision we made early on, there have been places where we decided it would be cost effective to move the pipe, for example, into ComEd utility corridors, where the cost of construction is lower, but we do have to go through a process of obtaining easements there. There are other locations where easements are required to either reduce the cost or potentially reduce the risk that a right-of-way owner might come back later on and ask us to relocate the pipe. So a lot of work to be done on the easement side. You can imagine with 62 miles of pipe, there are a tremendous number of permits to obtain. Our database currently has more than 260 local, state, and federal permits. We've identified those, who the agencies are, what's required, the timeline, and now have those in a tracker so that as the design gets to a point where we can begin to submit plans for permit application, we can track those and make sure that they don't become a bottleneck. Thirdly, we're going through all the member communities with infrastructure, but those members are part of the team and are very familiar with the program. We're also going through many other jurisdictions between Chicago and Romeoville to get this pipe and the water out to this area. So there's a tremendous amount of intergovernmental coordination, and kudos to Allison and others on the team who've really been at the forefront of reaching out to those parties, making sure they're aware of the program, working with them to help them understand the importance and helping us understand what their requirements are. And then lastly, on a program of this size, management of the schedule and budget is critical. With 36 different work packages, teams working on them in various areas, different jurisdictions, it's critical that we track. So we have a rigorous reporting system where we review schedule and budget each month. We encourage all the work package leads to submit information on challenges or changes that they see coming up that we can address and try to make sure that we're being efficient in moving things forward. From the beginning, there's been an aggressive effort to make sure that the public is informed about the program. So there is the Rethink Water Joliet website, which has significant information on the background, all the work that was done in Joliet, as well as what's going on in Joliet. And then the commission has its own website at gpwc-il.org, and that's where agendas for the commission board and technical advisory committee meetings, and other background on the commission is posted. So we encourage people, if they're interested in learning more, there are opportunities on both those websites to sign up for regular communications, whether it's newsletters, monthly e-blasts on conservation, and things that people can do to manage water use in their own homes. So things that are coming up, there are a number of activities that involve both the action of this council as well as the Commission Board of Commissioners. And I should step back real quick. So the Grand Prairie Water Commission has a board of commissioners. It's made up of an elected official from each of the member communities. So there's 6 members. They each have an equal voting arrangement. So that is set up. They meet on a monthly basis in a public meeting. Right now those meetings are being held in Shorewood. There's also a technical advisory committee. It's made up of a representative from each of the communities that sits in on monthly meetings to discuss technical issues, kind of preview things ahead of the board and provide input there. So upcoming actions. One of the key items we want to make you all aware of tonight is Stantec is at a point where we have completed preliminary design. We're well into final design. We've also completed the phase of program management and external coordination that was authorized in our last amendment. So we'll be coming to you with a new amendment for your consideration at your November 19th meeting. I'll brief you a little bit on the contents of that tonight, but that's an important milestone. The water supply agreement between Joliet and the City of Chicago will need to be assigned to the Grand Prairie Water Commission. There's a process that will need to be followed to make that assignment. That's expected to happen in the first quarter of next year. And then on the Joliet side, as I mentioned before, we do expect the first construction contract for the elevated tanks to be bid and be ready for your consideration for award early next year, or second quarter of next year. On the commission side, they opened bids, or we opened bids on the first construction contract for a short piece of tunnel at the connection site to the Chicago system. Last week, those bids are currently being evaluated. We expect to present the bids or the contract with a recommendation for award to the Board of Commissioners at its first meeting in December. So that should move forward quickly. The commission will also be involved in the assignment of water supply agreement. We expect to close on the WIFI loan for construction in the first part of next year. And the commission will likely issue its first set of bonds in Q2 or Q3 of next year to have cash available to fund the ongoing construction work. So I want to talk briefly, but give you some background on the amendment that is coming up, because it is a large amendment, and we want to make sure that you have the chance to understand it and ask questions in advance of the meeting on the 19th. This slide just kind of shows our plan, and we are proceeding according to plan here. So the Stantec CMT team is currently working under what we call our Amendment 3. So each of these amendments covered a certain part of the program as we've moved forward. The original scope was the alternative evaluation for the last 2 Lake Michigan alternatives. Amendment 1 was preliminary engineering. Amendment 2 was essentially a no-cost change order to move some money around to keep some things moving while we worked on Amendment 3. Amendment 3 moved us into final design. We will be talking tonight and then presenting to you on the 19th our Amendment 4, which completes the design process and begins to set us up and move us into the construction services phase of the engineering contract. It's likely there will be 1 or 2 future amendments. That will depend to some degree on the decisions of the Joliet City Council and the board and the program team as to how to break up the remaining work beyond what's currently anticipated right now. This just gives you an idea of kind of what's contained in each of the amendments. As I indicated before, program management external coordination carries through the whole phase of the program. As you can imagine, there's a tremendous amount of coordination to track and manage all the efforts to keep this on track. Preliminary design is essentially complete now with Amendment 3. Final design and bidding, we're well into that for most of the projects, but there are some projects that were not authorized for final design in Amendment 3 because, quite honestly, we didn't know where the pipe was, where the west end of the pipe was at that time. So there's a little bit of final design in Amendment 4, and then the bulk of Amendment 4, the largest portion, is actually to authorize engineering services during construction as well as resident engineering and field services for construction management during the construction of about half of the work packages. I'm sorry, go back real quick, just a note on the bottom. So our current contract value through Amendment 3 is about $83 million. And again, that budget is currently being, the contract is held by the city of Joliet and Stantec. Joliet is paying those bills, but under the agreements for the water supply agreement, those costs are shared among the member communities based on their declared maximum day demand. So at the end of the day, Joliet essentially gets credit for all of this work that it's paid for up front in the balancing of the overall costs. So what's in Amendment 4? As I mentioned, it's extension of program management external coordination for another 2 years to the fall of 2026. There's some new design scope for tasks that were not authorized under Amendment 3, primarily related to the SCADA system, some of the regional transmission main at the far west end of the system, as well as commissioning and startup of the overall system. On the Joliet side, there's been a decision to include in the Joliet improvements a new water and sewer garage to provide additional facilities for the Public Works Department to maintain, or Public Utilities Department to maintain the utility system. So those are new scope elements. There are some what we call supplemental efforts. So these are efforts that on some of the projects that we've been authorized to take to design to all the way to bidding currently. There's additional changes and work that's come up as we work through that design process. In some cases, that's really to mitigate the risk of bigger changes during construction, or in other cases to accommodate changes that have come up because a site has changed for a facility of some or some other matter of that nature. This amendment includes significant budget for what we call subsurface utility engineering. As you can imagine, when you're putting a 66-inch pipe in the ground, you don't want the contractor to run into something they didn't anticipate, because you can't just run out to the hardware store, find a new fitting and work around something. So it's critically important that we understand where all the existing utilities are. There's a significant effort being made to expand what was originally anticipated, to make sure we captured that information and avoid the potential for change orders during construction. And then, as I mentioned, on the land acquisition side, our original intent was to keep in the right-of-way, minimize the number of easements that are required. While we have done that, there are places, like I said, where we've moved into ComEd corridors or other areas where we've decided, based on analysis and decisions by the program team, it's more cost-effective to actually go get those easements. So there is some additional effort in this amendment to pick up easements, acquire those easements, and make sure that we have the place to put the pipe as we go forward. And then lastly, the engineering services during construction and construction management. So this is a summary. I'll walk you through this real quickly. There's some very large numbers on this table. The first column is breaking that work up into different components I just described. The column says Amendment 4 Joliet scope is the scope of services for the projects that are in the city of Joliet to implement and make improvements to the Joliet water system. The Amendment 4 GPWC scope is the work being done for the commission, essentially to complete the design and move into construction for the regional transmission system. There's subtotals for each of those at the bottom. We've also successfully, to date, in each of the amendments, we've worked with the city to authorize an owner-controlled fund, if you will, so an amount of money that's available, so if there are other minor changes that come up during the course of the work, rather than having to come all the way back to the council for a modest change, or that there's some money that the program team, the program director, can authorize us to use to address those changes. So with all of that rolled up, the amount of the amendment that we'll be presenting to you for consideration on the 19th is $118 million. So it's a very, very large amendment. And again, that's why we wanted to brief you tonight. Make sure that if you have questions, that there are things that we need to provide or information we need to provide ahead of that we can get that information for you. I will mention that the amendment for the scope for the Grand Prairie Water Commission has been fully developed and negotiated. Those numbers are firm. There are still some discussions going on the Joliet side. I think those numbers may come down a little bit more as we work into a few of the details, but we're working to finalize those so that we have that final package ready before Thanksgiving. So the timeline, we presented this information to the Technical Advisory Committee for the Commission on October 23rd. So they've been briefed on this. A number of questions were asked. They've recommended support for Amendment 4 to the Commission Board. We're here tonight to brief you in this council meeting, give you an update of this. This Thursday, we'll be meeting with the Board of Commissioners for the Commission to ask for their support of Amendment 4 as well. This is in this situation, the contract is held by the city of Joliet, but as I mentioned, all of the members share ultimately in the cost of this. So we felt it was only right to make sure that we come to you when we ask for your consideration, that we can say this has been briefed with all the other members and they support the overall amendment. And then we'll be here November 19th with consideration of the amendment for approval. So that's a lot. I'm happy to answer a few questions. I know you have a number of things on the agenda tonight, but if there's anything I can answer quickly for you.
May I
I'm
ask a
happy to do
question?
that.
We keep talking about the shared cost with the commission. What would you estimate, based on water consumption, what is Joliet's percentage of the overall cost?
So the bulk of the cost, the debt service, if you will, is being split based on what we call 20/50 maximum day demand. Joliet's share of that maximum day demand is about 58% of the total. Because Joliet is fronting some of these costs right now, when that is considered and the actual debt service starts to come into play after 2030, Joliet's share will be, Teresa, 50? Yeah, so it goes down a little bit because of the upfront work, but Joliet is essentially paying for about 50% of the debt service in the capital.
Thank you.
So, Joe, you talked about where Stantec is on the whole project and acquisitions and land. Has there been any serious issues with acquiring right-of-ways or land so far?
I don't know if it's
Got to be
serious.
issues, all these.
Well, the challenges I will mention, and we've been, on the intergovernmental side, there have been significant conversations with the Cook County Forest Preserve District. We have about 5 miles of pipe that is in IDOT or Cook County right-of-ways. We're actually in road right-of-way, but it is adjacent to holdings of the Cook County Forest Preserve District. And in some areas, the Forest Preserve District actually has underlying rights to that right-of-way. So there have been extensive discussions with them. Essentially, they have agreed now with our alignment. They're happy with where we want to put the pipe and how we're going to mitigate the impacts. They have indicated that they need to demonstrate to their board and to their stakeholders that there are benefits of this program to them, and that basically means they want us to make some improvements or pay for some improvements in the Forest Preserve District. So those discussions are going on right now to kind of work out the details of what that agreement looks like. I think getting their agreement on the alignment was critical because 6 months ago, we were concerned that they might basically say, no, you can't be here. And the alternatives were going to be very costly to the commission. So that's a challenge, but I think we've made progress and it's going forward. There are, I think, some somewhat similar discussions going on with the Will County Forest Preserve, where we have to cross, we're crossing under the I-55 and the DuPage River, and figuring out how to make sure we minimize impacts on one of their park facilities there. But we don't see those as deal breakers. They are things where we've known from the beginning, we would have to work with the stakeholders, and certainly in areas where the stakeholders don't directly benefit from the project, there would be an interest in, they would want to know, how do we make this attractive to them? So.
Is there any of the communities, cities that you're going through that are not part of this, that have expressed some interest in hearing more about why this water main would work for them, or is that too early?
No, I mean, we've had extensive discussions with the communities from very early on because we didn't want to do a bunch of design and then have somebody say, no, you can't be there. So I don't see any major roadblocks. In general, most of these communities understand this is not unusual. They understand the need for water. I think everyone has said they understand the need for this. They want to support the project. I think there are concerns. They don't want these things to inappropriately burden their residents. They don't want it to hold up projects that they're trying to do or to preclude them from doing something in the future. So there's lots of discussions going on, but again, I don't see any major deal breakers at this point.
Thank you.
And I think Councilman Mudrin, I think you were also trying to get at whether they expressed an interest to join us, right?
Sure.
Has anybody expressed an interest to join?
So the way the commission is structured right now in the water supply agreement between the 6 members, a decision had to be made in the design phase at some point of how big are we going to make this pipe, essentially, and what's the capacity. So right now the system is sized to meet that 2050 demand of the 6 communities, as well as to then support their growth out to build out with the addition of pumping. In order for another community to become a customer of the commission of the pump on supply, all the 6 communities would have to unanimously agree to that, and likely some of the communities would have to give up some of their capacity to accommodate that new community coming in. So there were some discussions at some point with the Village of Lamont, because we are locating a pumping station there, about their potential participation. But as of right now, it is the 6 communities that are part of the commission, and the system is sized for those communities.
And what the numbers are showing us tonight, through completion, running through Amendment 4, where are we at compared to what we estimated?
So on the engineering side, in general, on the program management and external coordination, we believe, if we look at kind of an estimate to complete, we believe that we'll be able to finish that on track with our budget. The construction engineering right now looks a little higher than we anticipated. As I said, we're planning in Amendment 4 for about 14 of the work packages that will start construction by the fall of 2026. And so we budgeted to provide field services for those all the way through completion of their construction. There's a lot of uncertainty around the construction management. It really is going to depend on how that work goes and the quality of the contractors. So we believe there's an opportunity to manage to that and work with that number to see that we can work to try to bring it in on budget there. And then on the engineering side, we are tracking right now a bit over budget, primarily because of the land acquisition and the supplemental utility investigations. And so we've gone back and looked at that, and I think the trade-off that I would present is that, again, we see the subsurface utility engineering as a risk management effort. If we are putting 66-inch pipe in the ground, we run into something we don't know about, contractor is delayed for several weeks waiting for parts and other things to get around that, we're looking at potentially a 6-digit type of change order that could have huge impacts. So we feel that the subsurface utility engineering is something that helps us reduce the risk of that now. Similarly, with the land acquisition, by being either in the ComEd corridors or in a few places actually purchasing easements outside of the right-of-way, we limit the potential in some of these other areas, even though we may sign an agreement with for example, IDOT. If we're in their right-of-way, they have the right to come back at a later time and say, you know, we're doing something, you need to move your pipe. We're working on trying to minimize that in the agreements, but there's some locations where we feel like by either being in a utility corridor or by being in an easement outside of the right-of-way, for example, where we're in farmland, they can obtain that easily. That reduces the risk that we might have to make a change in the system later on. So again, there's some upfront cost to that, but we believe that there's a trade-off that it reduces the overall cost of the program. So that's a long answer to your question, but in general, we're tracking pretty well. We are running a little bit over on engineering right now, but as I said, we believe that that's justified given the benefits that work is going to provide in the long term.
Now, does every right-of-way agreement from any of the municipalities, IDOT, so forth and so on, can any of them demand down the road 10 years that we need to move?
We are spending a lot of time with our legal team to basically avoid that, and it really depends. Some of the entities obviously have written lots of license agreements, you know, IDOT, Cook County Highway Department, other those. This is something they do routinely. They have a standard agreement that they want to stick to. In some of the other communities, we may have the opportunity to have more leverage in what we propose and how we can do that. In general, I would say all of the stakeholders we've talked, nobody is going into this with the intent that they're going to come back later on and say, you got to move this pipe. They don't want that to happen. But at the same time, you know, getting them to sign on the dotted line and say they will never do that over a 100-year period is very challenging. So we're relying on our legal staff to help us figure out how to push those agreements and put the commission in the best place possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next is the proposed 2025 budget.
Good evening. So we've got the draft operating budgets for the 2025 fiscal year. Just to recap, we did our formal kickoff on June 3rd. Departments submitted their budgets July 12th. And then this year, city manager met with every department to go through their budget, not just their ask, but what was in their existing budgets, line item by line item. So departments weren't justifying just new stuff, they were justifying what they had in their existing budgets. Then the Finance Committee, did this kind of presentation I'm doing tonight at Finance Committee on the 15th. Operating budget, so we're comparing the estimated year end to the 25. On the top left, you've got the general fund, so going up about 3 million on both revenues and expenses. Sewer and water, I'll talk a little bit more on sewer and the water, but they're going up a little over 5 million on the revenue side, expenses going up about 8 million. Theirs is a little different than the general fund in that the reason for some of these movements are construction projects. Some highlights on general operating fund. So budgeted revenues. So I know I showed a slide that's going up 3 million. That's from where we think we're going to end the year. So looking at budget to budget, it's going up 16. So of that, 3.3 million is sales tax. You've got income tax going up 3.6. Ambulance fees at 2 million. Some notable expenses that we're seeing is additional 850,000 towards building maintenance and repairs. We're making a conscious effort to start tidying up some of the buildings and leaky roofs and so on. Also an additional 225,000 at the ballpark, and then as to get additional retailers, you've seen sales tax rebates going up 750. So obviously, you see sales are going up 3.3. A percent of that's going back to some retailers. So on the personnel side, so there was a request for 46 new positions. We are including 30 in the budget. I do want to highlight 22 of those are police and fire. Of that number, 14 are patrol officers. 6 are for a fire station to maintain a certain level of service. There is an additional community paramedic that's grant funded. You have 3 for IT. Highlight there is a network engineer just to safeguard the city's network. 2 clerical and public works, bilingual in the city clerk's office, admin and community development, and then a equipment operator on the water side. You have a list of those positions as well. This budget that I submitted does not include capital just yet. We're still finalizing some of that. Just as I mentioned in Finance Committee, there was more requests than there was funding. So we did add a scoring matrix for this year. We're close to a recommendation. Just as we were going through our priorities, obviously we're road, sidewalks, vehicle replacements, and facilities, as I mentioned. Grants to others. So the budget does include what I call a reservation of funds for both the museum and the Rialto. That is 250,000 for the museum, 475,000 for the Rialto. These are the same as the last year. Remember, these are grants. So to actually fund these, there will be a grant agreement that will be required by the city council. So unlike prior years or prior to last year, the budget doesn't approve the expenditure. The budget just approves funding. You still have to vote to do the grant at a later date. Property tax levy. City with 13% of the bill. Property tax levy in the budget accounts for 21.8% of all general fund revenues. That's actually down from 23.6 in the 24 budget. So we're becoming less reliant on property taxes. We're expecting, based on permits, total property values to go up about 5.15%. We are recommending a 6.25% increase from last year, which is $3 million. That increase is to fund pensions, capture new property, obviously that's coming out of the tax rolls from new construction, and then around a 1% inflationary increase. So overall, we don't expect the rate to move, but just a small amount. Moving into the library's portion of the levy, and I will say that I do have representatives from the library in the audience in case there's any questions specifically for them. Their property tax represents 90% of the library's total revenues. They have state grant, represents 7.7%, and the rest is miscellaneous fees and things like interest. Their request is to go up by 8% from last year. Structured 5% for operations to help keep up with inflation, which represents about $316,000, and then 3% dedicated for capital improvements. Just a reminder, today the library does not have a funding source for capital. Their current capital funding source is really a component of, they had better operations, or the, person that left didn't get replaced for a couple of months, so they saved some money, and then that goes into their reserves and they use that for funding. So their request would actually create a stream of funding for the library. Partially attributed that to the request for a loan. So at Finance Committee, they did a presentation about their Black Road project. I understand that the library has sent that presentation to the council. So I'm not gonna focus on the project itself, just the funding component for that. So they're asking for a loan term of 20 years at a market interest rate. We'd actually tie that on the day of closing, if it's approved, to the U.S. State Treasury's state and local government securities rate, also called the slugs rate. We would structure it semi-annual interest, annual principal, and the funds would come from our investment pool, hence tying it to that market interest rate. So it pretty much represents a rate that we would get in the market for our investments. So instead of a CD or a treasury, it would be basically a loan to the library. Just note, from an investment perspective, it's a good investment. We control the levy. We would structure it as kind of a debt or a lien on the capital portion of that levy if it goes through. And I know I'm going brief, just in the interest of time, kind of moving fast. So next steps, I've submitted the operational budgets. We're gonna look to schedule one-on-one meetings for council that want to sit down and go through the operations. Fully hope to have the capital component of the budget on the 18th. We'll also have some additional city council discussion as needed. And then schedule public hearings. The budget and the tax levy would require a public hearing. We would schedule those for December 3rd. And then the budget and or tax levy would be available for adoption either on the 3rd or the 17th. So that is all I have for my presentation. Be happy to take any questions or save them for a while.
So the one-on-one meetings coming are gonna be scheduled?
So,
through
yeah, we're gonna
you
reach out to
call?
you guys to schedule one-on-ones with staff.
Thank you.
Kevin, question, we're giving a loan to the library district and considering it an investment with a comparable rate of return that we would get out in the market. Okay, but it's not liquid then, right? If
Correct.
we had a 2007 happen all of a sudden, we needed all that cash, we wouldn't be able to get it.
Correct.
Okay. Or could we then put that loan on the market to get our money back?
I'll have to look into that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay. Under Mayor is a proclamation recognizing Jim Torrey for his loyal and dedicated service to the city of Joliet.
Well, this is an honor for me. The mayor called me up and said he unfortunately couldn't be here, so he asked me to read this proclamation. Because I'd probably work the longest with you here. amongst the council. It's a proclamation in recognition and honor of Jim Torrey, Planning Director for over 34 years of dedicated service to the city of Joliet. Whereas Jim Torrey, a lifelong Joliet resident, has served the people of the city of Joliet for over 34 years. Where Jim Torrey began his employment with the city of Joliet in June of 1990 as a student intern in planning. Whereas Jim Torrey was promoted to Planner 1 in April of 1993, Planner 2 in January of 2005, and Planning Director in June of 2021. And Jim Torrey provided project oversight for major developments including Silver Cross Hospital, Cass Street TIF, or the TIF, Tower Marketplace Commercial Center, Rock Run Crossings, Mixed Use Business Center, North Point's Compass Business Park, and Center Point Intermodal Park. Whereas Jim Torrey was instrumental in providing professional planning services to developers during the city's period of extensive growth and development. Jim Torrey has served as a liaison to Land Use Committee, Secretary of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and Plan Commission. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Joliet, Illinois, as follows, that it is hereby deemed appropriate that Jim Torrey be recognized and commended for the outstanding and professional manner in which he performed his duties as Planning Director and for the many years of dedicated and loyal service to the city of Joliet, dated November 4th, 2024, and signed by Terry D'Arcy, our city mayor. Congratulations. I'll have more comments.
Thanks. I just want to say that this truly means a lot to me. You know, it's a nice cherry on top of a long career here that I was blessed to have. And thank you to Rosa Maria and Krista for putting this together, and city manager and all you that, you know, are recognizing me this way. But I feel lucky and blessed to have this job and what it did for me, what it did for my family, and I want to thank all those people, you know, that helped me get to here. John Mesereau was one of them, and I'm sorry to hear of his passing. Earl Peterson, he found out about this job, told me about it, and it went from there. Jim Haller, Don Fisher, Kendall Jackson, Jan Vitale, current staff, you know, Dustin and Lauren, Jane, Helen, Ray, Sonia, Trinicia, I hope I didn't miss anyone, and my beautiful wife and my 4 kids, Nina, Tanner, Marissa, and Evan. You know, thank you for supporting me and listening to me vent when maybe I didn't have such a great day, but thank you very much for allowing me to do this job. You know, I had a college professor that said, whatever you do when you guys graduate, don't get a job immediately with your hometown. Go find how to do it, you know, somewhere else. And of course, I didn't do that. Started here, but I don't have any regrets in doing that. There's opportunities galore here for a planner to continue to learn, and I continue to learn my whole life here, and there's no other place I would rather work than Joliet. And again, thank you very much for allowing me to do that all these years. Thank you.
I just want to say something. Jim, I'm going to miss calling you, and I bet your wife won't care anymore. But thank you for all your help for me.
Yeah, and I told them they could call me, so. Thank you.
Next is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Cardenas?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilwoman Ibarra?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is citizens to be heard on agenda items. Is there anyone who would like to speak on an agenda item? Okay. Seeing none. Under appointments, the mayor is recommending the following appointments to the Plan Commission. Wendell Martin replacing Mark Brusinellis and Michael Turk replacing John Dillon. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilwoman Ibarra?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cardenas?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council committee reports. We'll start with Land Use and Economic Development.
All right, so Land Use and Economic Development Committee met here Wednesday, October 23rd at 9 a.m. in the council chambers in attendance with myself, Councilman Mudrin, and Councilman Guerrero. We reviewed a few agenda items. One was the award of a professional service agreement for the I-80 Des Plaines River Bridge Community Plan to CDM Smith in an amount not to exceed $392,000. The funding is provided to the city of Joliet by IDOT for the development of a community plan specifically targeting the areas affected by the reconstruction of the Interstate 80 bridges over the Des Plaines River. IDOT has also committed $3.5 million towards the implementation of the recommended improvements by the identified in the community plan to be spent in the Des Plaines River Bridge community area. So I think that's a really great one that's going to be coming up for those affected by the new bridges that are coming there, and the fact that there's a $3.5 million, for implementation is also a great thing there. That came in by full support for the committee to the council for a vote today. And then we're declaring 4 parcels of real estate as surplus and directing the sale thereof. The city, Joliet, currently owns over 100 vacant resident lots and is paying contractors to maintain the properties. Many of these parcels have been determined to be surplus real estate and are currently listed for sale on the website. So this was also something that we reviewed as a committee, and we recommended it to come for full support from the committee to council. And the last agenda item that we reviewed was the honorary street name request for Monroe Street between the Des Plaines River and Water Street to Reverend Genevieve Brown Way. The applicant, Bishop Stephen Evans, has submitted an application for an honorary street name designated for Reverend Genevieve Brown due to her contributions to the Joliet as a community advocate and servant leader. Reverend Brown was a person of service throughout her life and was involved with a variety of organizations and initiatives. She volunteered with the Salvation Army, organizing the Christmas Angels Project and distributing food. She served as PTA president and band booster president when her children were young and enjoyed reading to children at local schools. As president of her local chapter of Mended Hearts, a nonprofit organization that provides support to caregivers and families of those with cardiovascular disease, she brought regional and national recognition to the group and increased local membership. This was another item that we all looked over and reviewed and recommended for full support to the council for a vote today. Councilman Mudrin or Guerrero, anything I missed?
All good.
That's my report.
Okay, we'll move on to public assets.
Okay, the Public Assets Committee met on Monday, October 21st at 8:30 a.m. in the Executive Conference Room. In attendance were Councilman Cardenas and me, along with Blaine Klein, Facilities Management Director, and Brent Frazier, Chief Operating Engineer. We approved the minutes from August 19th. There were no citizens to be heard on agenda items. There were 3 items on the agenda, 1 award of contract and 2 professional services agreement. Joliet Area Historical Museum roof replacement low bid came in at $107,400, well below the estimate of $300,000, and is recommended for the award. The flat roof has 1 main area and a few smaller flat areas. That main area has a few leaks and is over 20 years old. Now that the roof at the Union Station is complete, ceiling of the Grand Ballroom hasn't been painted since the 1980s and has staining from smoke and damage from water leaks over the years. 1 coat of stain blocker and then 2 coats of flat paint will be applied. The low proposal came in at half the estimate amount and is recommended for approval. And then the last item was Union Station has 2 boiler systems for building heat, and one of those units has been decommissioned and removed nearly 3 years ago. So the remaining boiler life expectancy will be diminished with 2 working boilers. The low proposal came in right at budget amount and is recommended for approval, and all these items were unanimously recommended for approval. That is my report, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public safety.
Thank you. The Public Safety Committee met today at the Joliet Police Department Community Room, something a little different. All the rooms were taken, something different that we did, but that happened at 4:32 this afternoon. In attendance was myself, Councilwoman Coleman, and Councilwoman Ibarra. We approved the minutes for October 1st. There were no citizens to be heard on agenda items. All these agenda items and resolutions were all voted in favor to bring to the full council. Number 1 under the agenda item, under 517 on tonight's agenda, purchase of firefighter turnout gear from Air One Equipment Incorporated for the years 2025 through 2027. We do this every 10 years. There is a savings of half off the national list price. Number two, a request to approve the purchase of one Ford Expedition from Morrow Brothers Ford for $59,740. That's self-explanatory. That was voted all in favor. Number three, purchase of 8 cardiac monitors, 6 Power Pro 2 high cots, and 6 MTS power loaders for the City of Joliet Fire Department from Stryker Medical in the amount of $660,871.50. Basically, it's cots, loaders, and cardiac monitors. A savings of $120,000, scratch that, $120,998 savings. Number four, purchase of one mobile command center from LDV Specialty Vehicles. This is for the police department in the amount of $1,605,935. I know this is a big ticket item, probably the biggest one that I can ever remember for the police department. We do have Lieutenant Desiderio to do a short presentation on this, but you know, we have a command center that is well over 22 years old. It is old, very small. And these command centers we use to go out to critical incidents. I'm gonna let you speak on it, Lieutenant, is that okay? Thank you.
Good evening, Council. I stand before you tonight for your consideration of a new mobile police command post, and I have a brief presentation here. I'll just say where we were and where we want to go with our new command post. So if you take a look at the photos at the very top right of this slide here, this is our current command post. It's a 2000 Freightliner. Prior to that, it was 1976 Winnebago. The slide there shows it out of the 1990 tornado, the devastation we had out there. So these slides here show some of the importance of having a good command post. So going from 76 to 2000, you're 24 years. 2000 until now, 24 years. We're at about 18-month build, so our current command post will be about 25 years old. So we're talking end of life for command post itself. So why are we looking for a new one? Basically, everything is outdated in it. So all the technology has been stripped out of there and removed. It's essentially just a rolling box on wheels. All the VCR, analog video, weather instruments are all outdated. So, and more importantly, on the third part of the slide there, it says there's no adequate room for a meeting space for emergency operations. Currently, the configuration for the command post is just like a long, narrow hallway. And so there's really not anywhere for police, fire, EMS, outside agencies to come in and have a true meeting inside there. So what we're proposing, and you'll see it in the slides, are some bump outs that give some extension to that command post and gives a true meeting space, if you will. And again, we're running into cost of repairs. MMB has been great with keeping up with all the repairs on this that we need, but we're talking end-of-life equipment. So, you know, the generator is getting costly. It's not working again. We're also running into things like the leveling system is not working on it, so it's just getting expensive. The command post benefits we're looking at here, we're the third largest city, right, in Illinois. So there's increased demands and requests for us to be in the community and be at all these special events. I know that we have a large potential for the downtown area with their new city square coming in. There's going to be a lot of events down there. We want to promote it. We also, cross our fingers, have NASCAR back in 2026. So we really want to have something down there that is appropriate for that event. It's also an inclement weather substation, so when we have major snow events, people have to report crashes. We put this out on the west side. People come there, they can make their crash reports and see officers if they need to. And also critical incident management. We talk about being able to dispatch, use a rolling location to be at a scene, you know, such as the crime scene we had in January where an entire family was murdered. We were on scene for that, and we found some good things and some bad things about being on scene with this. We found some things we really need to improve upon with the new command post. So we looked at three companies here. We looked at LDV, Lynch Diversified Vehicles, which is in Burlington, Wisconsin. We looked at EVI, Emergency Vehicles Incorporated, out of Lake Park, Florida, and Farber Specialty Vehicles out of Reynoldsburg, Ohio. Our recommendation is to go with LDV Custom Vehicles. They are the current manufacturer of our command post right now. They are the closest to Joliet for repairs and parts. They're only 2 hours away. I had a chance this summer to go up there and see their stock of what they have for parts, and it's an entire warehouse. So anything we need, it's available 2 hours away. They're a sole source vendor for things inside the command post, such as the IntelliTouch computer system, which monitors every part of the apparatus, and it won't let you leave unless everything is in place and where it's supposed to be. So you can't just drive off with the mask still sticking up. It's not going to start. It's not going to let you. This computerized system makes it foolproof. There's also flat floor slide outs, important in the dispatch center because the dispatchers are rolling around doing different things, and you don't want to have where the slide outs come out and it's still a bump. You want it nice and flat. Nobody's going to get injured. There's also these cassette stairs. Currently our command post, one half of it, essentially in the very center, is taken up by steps getting into the command post because they're interior steps. These will be outside now, so you walk up a set of metal grate steps. They're very sturdy, and that saves that space inside for other important items. And then also the future ability to retrofit electronics. So right now, if we wanted to retrofit ours, you got to tear out walls. You have to do a lot of work at the command post to try to do that. There are panels on the side at the top where it meets the ceiling that pop out, and you run all your wires and everything through it. So, LDV has come along a long way since, our last command post in being able to retrofit what we need. Also, they have the GSA federal contracts that have $64 million worth of vehicles, 100 state and federal agencies. When I was there, they had not only had stuff for the U.S., but they had stuff overseas that they were building. So, the specs we're talking about here is a 2024 Freightliner with a 360 horsepower engine. It's 43 feet long, 8.5 feet wide without the bump outs, and then 13 feet tall. So it's $1,605,935 is the dollar amount. Compared to what we have right now, we're going from a 260 horsepower to a 360 horsepower engine. We're gaining 5.5, 6 feet of length, and then we're adding 5 feet to the width of it with these bump outs. It's a foot taller, but what really matters to us is these bump outs and the extra 5 feet it's going to provide in there. So this is a schematic, just an overview. Some outside pictures. These are not mine, they're proprietary, so this won't exactly be our vehicle, but it's pretty darn close. So this one you can see on the outside without the graphics. This is one they're building. This is what it'll look like. It's a separate cab. On the exterior here, we have an information center. So if inside command center they want to give a briefing to, say a group of officers outside or whoever happens to be outside, you can do it through this television that has radio communications, telephone. There's a portal there for lines to go in. So if there were a need for something like a crisis negotiators, and they wanted to run lines to feed in so that the command staff could see what's going on scene or hear what's going on, we have the ability to do that. It has a retractable awning. So right now we get out the metal pole, we start, putting that awning back out and then have to put it back the same way. This is one touch button. So it's very simple. It will automatically retract if there is a certain miles per hour windage. It'll retract automatically. It has an LED light kit, and it'll help keep that whole area cool and rain-free. As we go around, there's still more things. There's a charging station, so if you want to charge up your drones, you want to charge up any equipment you have, phones, any type of equipment, you can charge it out here. There's plenty of juice. It has a rear door, which is fantastic because you can access a back section of this command post without having to go through dispatch or without having to go through maybe, let's say, a meeting that's in there. It's all meant to be compartmentalized. So the 5 areas here we're talking about is the cab of the command post, the conference room, the galley, we talk about a supervisor workstation, communication section, and then the rear workstation. So in the very front here, you know, if the officer gets in, you want to heat or cool that area. It's a very small space as compared to right now. It's just a big open box, if you will. And that's also where there's one of two touchpads that you can control everything that needs to be controlled from that location. So one is in the driver's seat there, and the other one is as you enter the command post. The conference room, again, this is giving us an extra 30 inches on each side, 5 extra feet of space. There's 5 seats around this conference table, plus there's another 3 seats on padded benches on each side. They flip down, so there's 11 total. This picture, ours is going to be just a little bit different, so ours will have 2 televisions up front, a little bit smaller, and then 1 on each side. Additional conference room pictures is what it looks like, and then this is what the completed conference room will look like up front. The galley and the workstation, so as soon as you come in that side entrance to the command post, there will be a supervisor right there. There's a workstation. It has a display of all the exterior cameras, so you can see what's going on. That person there will be able to guide people, whether it's media or command staff, as to where they need to go. If there's a meeting, they can direct them one way. If it's dispatch, they can send them another way. Media, all the way to the back. So there's plenty of options here. The dispatch center, we can house 4 dispatchers. So again, this picture here is a little bit incomplete because they're still in production, but you'll get the idea that the dispatcher will have a couple of monitors and the radios in front of them that they'll be able to dispatch. It also has a pop-up table that we're able to put in if you didn't have anybody dispatching, but you wanted to make that a separate meeting room where you had to do maybe an interview room, something like that. This has the ability also. Cable management for our IT folks, very easily accessible behind a whiteboard in there. And then we also have a tower rack that slides out for easy service. One of the nicest things I think about this is that rear workstation. So if you talk about that homicide scene back in January, you know, our folks that work media really needed a quiet space to come up with calling the media back and returning phone calls and coming up with public statements and that sort of thing. So this gives another room that's off to the back that can be totally blocked off, that's quiet. There's no disruption back there. You don't have to, you know, go through other dispatch centers or maybe a meeting that's going on. With that back door, officers could also go in and just get equipment. If they need more batteries or they need to get something out of there, then that becomes another space that they could use. I'm wrapping up here, so just a few other items that are on here of note. One is the lighting system that's up top that is able to use for crime scenes or special events, anything like that, anything where you need a little bit more light. It's omnidirectional, so that's going to be a fantastic addition. In the center here, we have the Magellan Weather Center. So that's a state-of-the-art weather center, which is going to come in very handy for you know, a lot of our events, very weather dependent because they're outside. So, you know, we've had some quick storms pop up that, you know, we're relying on the National Weather Service to give us notice. Well, we can look here and just find out immediately what's going to happen. So we'll use all of our tools. And then on the right here we have Axon. They have a tethered drone. So this thing is attached to the rooftop. It'll go up 150 feet. It's a high definition camera. You can just let it run as long as there's power to it, it will run. If there are only limitations would be if it becomes too windy, it has to come down, it'll come down automatically. But it's a nice feature to get a good lay of the land and see what's going on around the event. There's also a mast there that has pan tilt zoom cameras so we can see what's going on. And then the command post itself has left, right, and rear vision for night and day for these cameras so we can keep an eye on what's going on around it. And that's the end of my presentation.
Yeah, just thank you for that. I just want to stress the importance of this vehicle. I mean, number one, when there's a major crime, lost child, I mean, there's a host of things we can use it for, and that we do use the one now. And it's very important that we have a place that our command, dispatch can all meet in confidence and get the job done and and handle the incident the best we can. So I think it's very, very important. So anybody else have anything on that? Okay.
Just one question.
Yep.
Bobby mentioned you went up to Wisconsin. Was a unit like the one we're purchasing anywhere near in completion that you got to see it, or is these just by order only?
Well, the one that I showed in the pictures was the most complete at that point. Everything that they do is custom. So if you said, you know, I want a 40-foot, 1-inch apparatus, that's what they would build. So, I mean, it starts from the chassis, and they build everything custom. So this was the one that was most farthest along, if you will. I couldn't quite get all the pictures. They had to take my phone and take the pictures with my phone because they have proprietary things that they don't want in the pictures. So, you know, I would have taken maybe a little bit better pictures, but just wasn't allowed to.
So you'd mentioned that there was, what was it, 4 other bidders?
3 other ones.
3
yes.
other ones.
Sorry, 2 other ones. There was 3 total.
Talk to anybody in the business who purchased the LDV unit, any other police departments by any chance?
There are. I went out to Romeoville, EMA, and I talked to theirs. I think they got theirs from LDV. Theirs was smaller than our current one and of the similar style. They procured theirs, and then they actually spent extra money to change it. So, you know, they added new towers for radios and a different light bar and some other electronics that they wanted to have. But, you know, when you get into looking at some of the command posts, you have the kind of style that we have currently, if you will, the Winnebago, if I can call it that. Then you have one that's a little bit softer of a version. It's more like a, I guess, tour bus, if you will, like a high-end, I don't want to say camper because it's high-end, you know,
Okay.
but it's just a softer feel to it. And then you have ours that has the cab separate from the rest of the command post.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Lieutenant, and this is in the budget too from last year, right?
Yes,
Yep. Okay. All right, thank you.
thank you.
And then last under resolutions, resolution approving the execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the Will County 911 Emergency Telephone System Board to accept grant funds available under the 911 surcharge grant program. There's a fee through the telephone bill, and the city of Joliet receives funding through this grant. So if there's no questions from Councilman Coleman or Ibarra?
No, good job.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, that is my, and then we adjourned. There was no new business, and then we adjourned, so,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Okay, lastly, we have Public Service.
Public Service Committee met here at City Hall this afternoon at 4:30, here in council chambers on the committee, and present was Councilwoman Reardon, Councilman Mudrin, and myself. Also in attendance was Director of Public Works Greg Ruddy and Director of Public Utilities Allison Swisher. Short agenda, no heavy lifting, small amounts of money being vetted and considered. 3 contracts. Under the contracts, one's a yearly payment we make for the computer programs, to make it simple, that control all of our water throughout the city and how it flows. And that's for about $92,000. So we looked at that contract as well as the contract for Lumec materials purchase, which has to do with the unique decorative lighting that we have in downtown and certain areas of the city. It's single source, and so that's for about 58, almost 60,000 for parts, basically. So we have attic stock to keep things working. And then we also had to look at a contract, they're paying about a little less than 31,000 to move some what they call non-specialized or contaminated soil disposal from the wastewater treatment plant. Some of it can go to through a less expensive process, but under EPA rules, some of it has to go directly to waste management, which is a more expensive proposition. So we needed to send additional truckloads there because of the testing. All 3 of the contracts were vetted by all 3 members of the council and approved unanimously to move forward with our recommendation for approval here with the council. We had 3 change orders on our agenda. We looked at all 3. One was for about a little less than $67,000 on a final payment with a $20,000 addition to PT Faro on resurfacing. Another, and that would be the final payment. Another one was for $168,000 for the combined water flow regulators that we have to do. And a third one was for $28,500 roughly to our yearly sewer cleaning and televised program, the National Power Rotting. Again, the committee, looked at all three of these items, found them to be in order, and sent them forward with unanimous recommendation for approval. Then we looked at a license, a permit for an application for a drive-through permit for a Dunkin' restaurant at 600 Collins Street. I won't talk so much about that because we just sent it forward without recommendation, so that the entire council can take a look at it. Sometimes you gotta be creative in the older sections of town to make things happen, so we certainly want the council to look at the entire thing and, make up their mind. Under ordinance and resolutions, some housekeeping, as we call it, an easement agreement with Joliet Park District, so that we can do a culvert repair project on Highland Avenue, which runs through the course of Filcher Park. A resolution for the City of Joliet and Fairmont Community Partnership Group. This essentially, long and the short, to make improvements on the sewer system that we took over several years ago in 2019. It's about $20 million, of which about $16 million will be administered by the City of Joliet for the actual sewer improvements. And the reason we have to have this partnership is because the other $4 million is for other improvements within that community, which are gonna be administered by their association. So that's not city dollars, it's a grant coming in. And then there was an additional $1.1 million, again, for improvements from the county that we looked at for the Fairmont sewer system. So, again, those are three items, and we looked at all three and sent them forward with a recommendation, a unanimous recommendation to approve. And other than that, that's all I really have. Did I miss anything, Pat or Sherry?
No, nothing.
All right, that would be my report.
Thank you.
I show no other reports. Under consent agenda, approval of minutes. It is recommended the minutes of the council meeting held on October 15th, 2024 stand approved as recorded. Invoices to be paid. It is recommended this report be approved. 2025 Joliet City Council meeting schedule. It is recommended the proposed 2025 meeting schedule be approved. Council memo number 513-24. Award of contract for the 2024 Lumec Materials Purchase Order Number 1 to Signify North America Corporation in the amount of $59,700. Council memo number 514-24. Award of contract for the roofing envelope replacement at the Joliet Area Historical Museum to Adler Roofing and Sheet Metal Incorporated in the amount of $107,400. Council memo number 515-24. Award of professional services agreement for the Joliet Union Station Grand Ballroom Ceiling Painting Project to Cosgrove Construction Incorporated in the amount of $67,625. Council memo number 516-24. Award of professional services agreement for Whale McLean Boiler for Joliet Union Station to Anchor Mechanical Incorporated in the amount of $62,769.10. Council memo number 517-24. Purchase of firefighter turnout gear from Air One Equipment Incorporated for the years 2025 through 2027. Council memo number 518-24. Purchase of 8 LP35S cardiac monitors, 6 6507 Power Pro 2S high config cots, and 6 MTS Power Loads auto cot loaders for the City of Joliet Fire Department from Stryker Medical in the amount of $660,871.50. Council memo number 519-24. Request to approve the purchase of 1 Ford Expedition from Morrow Brothers Ford for $59,740. Council memo number 520-24. Change order number 1 for the combined sewer overflow long-term control plan phase 4, east side and west side combined sewer overflow regulators to Deconstruction Incorporated in the amount of $168,441.10. Council memo number 521-24. change order number 1 for the 2024 sewer cleaning and televising program to National Power Rotting in the amount of $28,560. Council memo number 522-24, change order number 1 for the 2023 MFT resurfacing contract C to PT Farrow Construction Company in the amount of $20,150.86, and payment number 5 and final in the amount of $66,646.17. Council memo number 523-24, approve annual software payment for the Census Analytics RNA SaaS systems and Census Customer Portal to Core and Main LP in the amount of $92,156. Council memo number 524-24, approve payment for non-specialized soil disposal to Waste Management Incorporated in the amount of $30,862. It is recommended for Council Memo 513-24 through Council Memos 524-24 be approved. Is there a motion to approve all said consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilwoman Ibarra?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Cardenas?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Motion carried. Under agenda item, Council memo number 526-24, purchase of 1 mobile command center from LDV Specialty Vehicles for $1,605,935,000. It is recommended Council memo number 526-24 be approved.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilwoman Ibarra?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Cardenas?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Motion carried. Licenses and permit applications. Council memo number 528-24. Application for a drive-through permit for a Dunkin' restaurant at 600 Collins Street. Staff is recommending denial of the application for a drive-through permit for a Dunkin' restaurant at 600 Collins Street.
So I want to make a motion to approve this, but we had some discussion on it. So this is going to replace what was there before the KFC Taco Bell on Collins Street. And I know originally the owner and the architect are here if anyone has any questions, but I've spoken with them. And I know that originally when they applied for it, they had proposed it with 8 cars stacked in the waiting for the drive-thru, but they made some changes to where now there'll be 11 cars. And can you tell us a little bit about the number of cars, traffic count on Collins from, you come up and just, in comparison to, you're also the owner on the Route 6, the Six Corners, McDonald's.
Hi guys, my name is Ashish Patel. I'm the current owner of the Dunkin' on the Six Corner on Black Road and Rainer. So compared to that location, what we're asking for here at the Collins Street is totally different place. You know, that Six Corner traffic count is little over 50,000, and our car stack right now currently is 14. Versus on Collins Street, there's only 11,000 car counts. The cross street, the Liberty, I was searching on IDOT website, they don't even have a car counts for that site, for that street. And here we are putting almost 11 car stacks in the drive-through. And right now, you know, that Six Corner has been open since May of 2022, and we have no issue with the traffic. There's no street car going on the street or anything like that. So knowing my experience, you know, Dunkin', we do a very super fast customer service. You know, our average time in a drive-through, it's about 1 minute and 20 seconds. So we are fast, you know, unlike, you know, other restaurant joints, people come and go. You know, we are in coffee business, you know, we are also in the morning business. So we push the cars out very faster. And I don't see any, you know, before I understand when it was only 6 cars, maybe there was some concern, but now we moved all window around, you know, front of the building. So now we have 11 car stacks. So you know, honestly, that's plenty for us right now. And it's also Collins Street. You know, we are not in the Six Corner, and it's not major traffic area. I'm just doing this Dunkin' because, you know, I already have a couple locations in Joliet and Crest Hill area, so I just want to protect my house, you know. And so that's why I'm here. If you guys have any questions, please ask me, and I would like to answer those.
Questions? Oh, so I have
Mayor
a
Pro Tem?
motion to,
Yeah, we went through this with a tire changing. Remember that shop, guys? I don't know if you were on there yet. On the older sections of town, we have to be a little bit creative, you know? And the fact that, we did discuss it at the Public Service Committee meeting, and Greg Ruddy said, well, it's actually 9 guaranteed spots with 2 that could be blocked. And so it's between 9 and 11 and not the 12. Right now, it's vacant, right?
vacant, it's been vacant for.
Yeah, it's
Are
been-
you guys remodeling this, or are you gonna?
Yeah, it's gonna, I mean, we're gonna, there's gonna be a lot of improvement
You're
to
not
this.
tearing it down, you're gonna remodel and use the existing.
Correct, yeah. There's will be a lot of improvements gonna happen to this building. It's something that, you know, that side town will really appreciate that.
And we would, thank you, and we did establish that there is no room for them to, you know, pick up any land around it.
Right.
So I don't know, I think that having a functioning, in this case Dunkin', but a functioning restaurant versus vacant, I think that's an easy choice.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Councilman Cardenas, and you did talk to the Collins Street Neighborhood Council.
Correct. I did talk with the Collins Street Neighborhood Council, and they were all, you know, happy to see that something like happening for that property that's been sitting vacant for quite some time now.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.
Can we,
Need a second.
just a point to our attorney, can we go ahead and do this? I mean, do we need to declare the original recommendation as dead, for lack of a motion or a second, right?
Yeah, it looked like the Public Works was recommending denial, but you can make a motion to approve the application.
So we've declared it dead, because we already asked for a motion to approve the
Correct.
denial, and nobody responded, so I just want to get on the record that it failed for lack of a motion, and then we moved
Yeah.
to Councilman Cardenas' motion, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you,
So
thank
we
you.
just need a second.
And I'll second.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Ibarra,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman,
I agree. I think it's better to have a Dunkin' Donuts here than have emptiness, and I know the neighbors wanted it as well, so I'll vote aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Cardenas.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Motion carried. Under resolutions, Council Memo Number 530-24, resolution approving an easement agreement with the Joliet Park District for the Pilcher Park Highland Avenue Culvert Repair Project. It is recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Cardenas.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ibarra.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo Number 531-24, resolution declaring 4 parcels of real estate as surplus and directing the sale thereof. It is recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Quillman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Cardenas,
Aye.
Councilman Clement,
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
I'm always happy to see us getting rid of some of these we have so many of these properties, put them back on the tax rolls, improves the neighborhood. Aye.
Councilwoman Ibarra,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo Number 532-24, resolution authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the Will County 911 Emergency Telephone System Board to accept grant funds available under the 911 Surcharge Grant Program. It is recommended said resolution be adopted.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Cardenas,
Aye.
Councilman Clement,
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilwoman Ibarra,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo Number 533-24, resolution for the City of Joliet and Fairmont Community Partnership Group Incorporated, partnership agreement for the Fairmont Sanitary Sewer and Community Improvements Project. It is recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Cardenas,
Aye.
Councilman Clement,
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilwoman Ibarra,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo Number 534-24, resolution authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the County of Will and the City of Joliet for funding of improvements for the Fairmont sewer system. It is recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilwoman Ibarra?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Cardenas?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo Number 535-24, resolution accepting a general operating support and youth employment in the arts grant from the Illinois Arts Council for the 2025 grant fiscal year. It is recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilwoman Ibarra?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Cardenas?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is the city manager's report.
Good evening, everyone. Let me begin with an update on downtown construction. Underground utilities relocation and installation continues, including fiber, electrical, water, and storm sewer. Restoration is following as areas are completed. The current road closures remain in effect with pedestrian access maintained to all downtown businesses. We're asking all our residents to continue to support our downtown businesses as we transform the area. I was asked to participate in Joliet School District 86's principal for a day on Friday, October 18th. My time was spent at Singleton Elementary School, and I found the day to be both fun and challenging as I entertained questions from some very inquisitive young people. I look forward to participating again next year. The city will be hosting a fall blood drive here in the council chambers on Wednesday, November 13th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Schedule your appointment online at redcrossblood.org or walk in. For more information, you may contact our new emergency management coordinator, John Lukanczyk, at 815-724-3563 or email him at jlukanczyk@joliet.gov. We recently promoted some individuals in the fire department. Congratulations to Lieutenant Matthew McKee, Lieutenant Christopher Berg, Captain Eddie Crombie, Captain Daniel Miller, and Battalion Chief Timothy Chaplin. Finally, I want to congratulate 6 of our paramedics that were honored last Friday at the Ascension St. Joseph's 2nd Annual Barna Brain Breakfast. The event recognized our paramedics from 3 ambulance crews for their extraordinary efforts in assessing, recognizing, treating, and alerting the transport hospital to the code stroke nature of the incoming patients. Through their time-saving actions and interventions, the patients were met at the hospital with immediate advanced neurological care, and as a result, vital brain function was saved. On behalf of the city, congratulations to the honoree whose names are paramedic Tony Dukas, Matt McGuire, Rob Doyle, Nick Tash, Robbie Ramirez, and Chris Morris. Finally, I want to take a moment to pay tribute to all of our veterans, and in particular, our city employees who have served our country. We should remember the sacrifices of all our military personnel around the world and thank them for their service. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Next, we have public comments. Is there anyone who would like to address the council this evening? Okay, seeing none. We have mayor and council comments.
I'll start.
Okay.
Just want to say thank you to all our veterans and happy Veterans Day, and then make sure for everyone tomorrow, obviously it's a big day to go out and vote if you haven't already voted. So make sure to exercise your right to vote and have a good day.
Thank you. Yeah, please bear with me. This is kind of late thing, but first and most important, I want to wish my daughter Carson happy 12th birthday tomorrow. She's yeah, wonderful kid, and I know her mom and I are so proud of her, and just want to say happy birthday to her. I had the great privilege of going to the World Series in New York. One of my good friends, Mark Carlson, was the umpire and crew chief for that whole series. I know Bob Okon did a wonderful article on that, and it got a lot of press and a lot of traction, and we just had a great time. I just want to wish Mark, tell Mark congratulations on that great series. You know, I know if you're a Yankees fan, you're not happy, but anyway, it was a great series. We had a good time. I just wanted to mention too, on the eve of election night 2024, you know, I was in LaGuardia Airport, and I had the honor of running into Vice President Mike Pence. It just happened. I don't know, but I was so happy to give him a patch from the Joliet Police Department and a couple patches from the Joliet Fire Department. We spoke briefly about Joliet, and you know, he has a relative on the Chicago Police Department, very familiar with Joliet. I don't know how common it is to run into a president, vice president, and anybody you know, of that stature, but I was very, very proud to have done that. We spoke. I gave him the patches, and he was so gracious to give me a presidential coin. So if anybody would like to see one, I've never saw one before, but if anybody wants to see it, I think it's pretty cool.
Pass it down.
Yeah, if you guys want to see it, you can pass it down. And then lastly, on October 18th and 19th, the city of Joliet, the citizens of Joliet, and local businesses came together for our hurricane relief effort. It was very, very successful. We were able to fill 1 3/4 truckloads full of merchandise that we sent to Bristol, Tennessee. There's so many people that I want to thank. I know I'm probably in trouble for probably missing somebody, but there's so many people that helped out. Again, the citizens of Joliet and local businesses, Local 150, Pat Young, Cadence Cares, Rocky Kaler. Rocky has done close to 1,000 of these and said to us, and I think the paper, this has been the most successful one, and we knocked this out almost 2 trailer loads in, you know, less than 16 or about 16 hours. So very successful. I want to thank, you know, Cadence Cares Foundation, Legacy Express, Isaac Isa, BL Duke, O'Hare Towing, Austin Tyler, Jim Ralph. You know, some of these guys that are these people that I mentioned, they were there both days. I mean, they helped tremendously. Jim Ralph, Jan and Tom Quillman, Tony Lakota from the police department, Eric Matson from the fire department. Thank you, Chief Carey from the Joliet Fire Department, Pete Valek, Scott Spezio, the World Series champion. He even showed up to donate. Mayor Darcy, Governor State University, City of Joliet asked me, Joliet Police Chief Bill Evans, thank you so much. Dollar Tree, Grand Petroleum, Union Sides, Herb Landy, Doc Herco, and John Lukancic and his son. And also, you know, we raised $10,000. But while we were doing that, Mayor Darcy had a hand, along with the Victory City Church, raising $70,233, which was going to Convoy of Hope, which was one of our listed partners. That church is over there at 1741 Essington Road, and they did a great job. And I believe there was a match from Walmart and Target, and they would equal, it says $200,000 in merchandise. So I think that is phenomenal. But on a, let's see, there's a couple others. Let's see, Walmart, Target, and for every $15,000 raised, they get $40,000 worth of merchandise. So we're gonna try to, no, we're gonna do it again, another relief effort at Old National Bank on the 15th and 16th of November. And it's gonna be the same hours. We'll do another press release, but they're looking for different items this time. Home cleaning products, rubber gloves, scrubbing matches, pads, white vinegar. There's a list right here, but we'll do a press release on it. Maybe the Herald News and Bob Okon can help us with this, and WJOL get the word out. We're gonna do this again, and I think it's gonna be very successful again. So if anybody come out, if they didn't get a chance to help the first time, maybe you can come out again the second time. But thank you everybody again. I'm sorry if I missed anybody, but those are my comments. Thank you.
So, a few things here. I want to begin just by saying my appreciation for Mr. Jim Torrey's remarks, in saying that, you know, there really are opportunities to pursue a career in your own hometown, and that's that was very moving, and I hope that's the vision for Joliet that we continue to build, because unfortunately, you know, I think there's a lot of bright talent here, a lot of bright young minds that leave Joliet and never come back, and we'd like to be able to keep some of them here. So to hear those remarks and say, you know, to all the young folks out there who want to pursue a career, there are plenty of opportunities here in our hometown, and we'd like to do everything we can to keep them here. So thank you for that. I want to make mention also for some of our hometown heroes that we will be doing a Veterans Day celebration this Saturday at the opposite corner of the Hartman Center on the corner of Collins Street and Ohio. That's this Saturday at 3 p.m. And we'll be giving recognition to Mr. Joseph Bellman, who earlier this year celebrated his 100th birthday. You know, he's been an active community member of the Collins Street area, has I would say a lifetime of wisdom and experiences and stories to tell, but really, Mr. Bellman has lived probably more lifetimes than any of us will ever achieve. We could go on and on for as many accomplishments, but we'd like to take a moment to recognize him, but as also, you know, the many more veterans that have come out of the neighborhood in Collins Street area. So if anybody would like to have a friend or a family member be recognized, I suggest to you all to search for the Collins Street Neighborhood Council on Facebook. They have an event page created and a Google form to submit any nominations for veterans from our area. And lastly, I just want to mention, as some of my colleagues here have already noted, that tomorrow is Election Day. And I hope that many of our residents, our citizens here, have already gone to vote. There's been, I think, record-breaking numbers for early voting in Will County. We hope to see those last few who haven't made it out. You haven't from 6 a.m. tomorrow till 7 p.m. at your designated polling location. And you know, it's so important that we exercise this right to vote. I've seen the numbers, unfortunately, in Joliet. Those turnout numbers are a little bit low, and we like to see those improve time over time. So again, tomorrow is Election Day. You have between the hours of 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. at your designated polling location. And you know, democracy works best when we all participate in it. So with that'll be my remarks.
I'll be brief. First of all, everybody, thank a vet, or two, or 10. A week from today is Veterans Day, so certainly happy Veterans Day for those that served. And that dovetails beautifully with the election happening tomorrow, because, you know, they served to protect many things about this country, including our ability to be a democracy and vote. So go out there and take advantage of that right, because it's been defended in blood over the years. Only other thing, I have a request. It's been quite a time, at least March of 23, if not even before that a little bit. Since it would be a perfect time for this, we have the budget coming up, discussion and the vote on the budget that was presented today by Kevin. So if the Director of Economic Development could bring a presentation. We used to do a monthly presentation over the years. You know, things like residential, commercial, industrial, permits, what's been done in the last you know, fiscal year, what's proposed to be done moving forward. So, because some of the stuff that we see in a budget also is going to require some vision over the next 3, 5, 7 years, that we need more income to meet that standard, the financial standard that we'll be committing to with the budget. So if you could, City Manager Beth, have a presentation for the next City Council meeting, so we can have that, you know, comprehensive presentation from the Economic Development Department of what has happened, what's going on, and what's being proposed. Like I said, you know, there's things like permits and expansions, new business, all of that. You know, like I said, we used to do that monthly, and I think it would be great for us to have that information before we decide on the budget or make requests on the budget moving forward. So that's my comments. Thank you.
It's my turn. I want to remind District 5 residents that I'm hosting a community meeting on Wednesday, November 6th at 6 p.m. till 8 at Bicentennial Park. The purpose of the meeting is to have a two-way dialogue of providing information to residents, information residents are asking me about, and then taking time to answer questions from constituents. There will be several topics addressed by city staff, including truck traffic, fire operations and community cares program, downtown construction, water main replacement program, and an overview of Citizens View, and I encourage everybody to attend. I was pleased to attend the Men Who Cook event hosted by the Will County State's Attorney, James Glasgow. 100% of the proceeds support the Will County Children's Advocacy Center. And I'm not sure how I got roped into it, but it was a lot of fun. The three amigos, Paul Reyes from the Sheriff's Department, Bernie from DVS, and Councilman Cardenas roped me into being there, and it was the most fun I've had in a long time. Tons of food for a good cause. That same day, I attended the Harvey Brooks Foundation Health event to show my support. It was well attended and helped to bring awareness to wellness issues that we should all be aware of. On October 21st, I spoke at St. Paul Neighborhood Council. Really appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to share information. I attended the Reedwood Neighborhood Council. It became an impromptu Halloween party because we are coming straight from a trunk or treat event and we are dressed like the Blues Sisters. It was fun and it was great to see everyone. Last Wednesday, I attended the City Center Partnership, the City of Joliet, and the Arts Commission ribbon cutting event for the Downtown Music Box project. I think the artwork turned out fantastic, and I want to congratulate all the artists whose work was chosen to be displayed. And after that, I attended the Spirits with Spirits event. It was also very enjoyable. Spent a little bit too much money in the downtown area, but it's definitely something that they need, so it was fun. I found a lot of good things too. Finally, and almost most importantly, tomorrow is Election Day, and let's remember that every vote is a powerful expression of our hopes and dreams for the future. Voting is not just a right, it's an opportunity to share and shape the decisions that affect our lives and communities. And I would like to congratulate Pastor Wendell Martin and Michael Turk for being appointed to the planning board. Thank you for everything that you're about to do. We greatly appreciate your service. And that concludes my report, Councilman Cardenas.
Jim Torrey, 34 years is a long time. Thank you for hanging in there for, I'm sure, there's a number of days that didn't go the way you want, and thank your family for sending you back to work the next day. We appreciate it. Joliet Public Library, congratulations on receiving the NASA display that's coming here next month. One of the few that was chosen. Appreciate it, the City of Joliet. Vets, obviously, thank you very much. None of us would be here without all the work you did in protecting us and the country. And as everybody said, if you haven't voted, please get out and vote tomorrow. That's it.
Okay, I'm up. Well, I pretty much followed Susanna around, but it started on Tuesday the 12th for the renaming of the street by Ren Center for Earl D'Amico, who had his wonderful supper club there for many, many years. Put Joliet on the map with all his wonderful entertainers back in the day. Attended the rededication of the Route 66 Park and Broadway Greenway, which was very well attended. And if you don't get out there, just take it out. Look, it's very beautiful. But unfortunately, Rich and Cream, I think, are closed in November. But when they open back up, it's a nice place to get an ice cream cone and walk through the park. Let's see, 24th, I went to the Collins Street meeting, and then I attended the Reedwood meeting. And just to piggyback on what Susanna said about the artwork, this program that's decorating the utility boxes down there gives the artist opportunity to highlight their local talents. And if you haven't been down there, go down there and take a look at them. They're very pretty and unique, very unique. And let's see, last but not least, the trick-or-treaters were out in full force on Western Avenue, and we had about 1,500 kids. I don't think that's gonna happen again. It's getting out of hand. A lot of us, finally, we ran out of candy, but the kids were very polite, but I swear they're coming by the busload. So anyway, we all had a good time, and it was a very safe and happy Halloween, and again, I have to say this, thank your veterans. I don't care who you live next door to, police officer, they're vets, Marines, Army, Navy, so on and so forth. They fought, just to piggyback and everybody else said, they fought for your freedom and your right to vote. So please don't say your vote doesn't count, because every single vote does count. I voted early, and I'm glad because the lines are long, but it's well worth it. Anyway, happy Veterans Day to everyone, and have a safe weekend.
If ever it was more true, there is literally nothing left to say. But I echo all
I'll
you've
borrow
said.
it. I can lend you a
I
couple
still need,
things.
I still need to say thank you to Jim. You have been so tremendous to work with and helped me so many times over the years and so great at what you do, so thank you very much. And the only thing nobody said was tomorrow's also my son's birthday. Carson and Blake share their birthday, so happy birthday to Blake.
Happy birthday, Blake.
Happy birthday.
And that's it.
And remember, Jim, every day is Saturday. So enjoy your retirement, and thank you for all you did for me every time I called you.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'm glad I put that clause in there, and I did not do it on purpose by any means, but Susanna Ibarra was also there at the hurricane relief, and I met her mother. What a sweet woman. So I just wanted to say that. I'm sorry I owe you lunch.
And my mother literally thinks you are the bee's knees.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry about that, but yeah, you were also there helping us with the relief effort, so thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. There is no request for closed session this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.
Aye.
Aye.